Hey guys, got a 10-minute game going against this challenge just came through from HarryPawnich, rated 807, and I got the white pieces and we've gone for the Vienna. And then with bishop c5, the best move is queen h5, threatening this pawn, right? But there's actually two threats. We're also building up a threat against f7, so he's found the right move, which is to defend the pawn with a knight, but now I'm going to bring out my light squared bishop, now with a serious threat against f7. There's a couple of things that black can do. It could push g6, which is kind of weakening. If g6, I just bring my queen back to f3 and have another peek at the pawn. The other move is really queen f6 here. Okay, it's gone for this one, so I know to move back, and we have another bite of the cherry, so to speak. This is really inviting me to push my d pawn and then try and bring my bishop into here if I can in some way. Okay, now we've got a situation almost completely symmetrical board, but now I can steal a march by putting my knight in there. However, he can also put his knight to here. But now, is that a danger? Should I put my knight here first? Then if queen takes queen... Okay, let's go in with the knight, attack the queen, see what happens. Because it's completely symmetrical, he can do exactly the same thing to me as I'm doing to him. So I'm attacking the queen, I'm also attacking the c7 square with a fork here. Okay, so he's taken. If I recapture now, he can play his knight in. Oh no, he can't. He can't now play his knight in because of my knight. I get to take him. Right. But now I get to play this. See, now I have the rook. And at least the exchange. This pawn is hanging. Defended, defended. Defended, undefended. Defended by the knight, defended by the bishop, defended by the king. Okay, so we've got a couple of undefended pawns. Well, one undefended pawn, one undefended bishop. I don't hold out much hope for this knight. If I can snatch off another pawn or anything on my way out as a desperado, that's great, but I'm +6 right now. I'm actually a pawn and a rook up. So, okay, so he's moved the undefended pawn. Good move. Also adding another defender to this, but it's still technically undefended there. Feel like I want to get my bishop out, so something like this here. Has he got a plan for capturing my knight? I think b7 bishop, or b6 bishop b7 might be the best way. Not sure. Okay, but see, if I can remove his dark squared bishop, I have this square, and then I'll be a really winning position. My king's ready to castle, all my pieces are out, and I'm a rook up at this point in time. So here you see I can actually move my knight to there straight away, because if bishop takes, I've got bishop takes. Okay, so we've traded off bishops and now this square is free and his king can't cover it because it would be moving into check. So this knight could, if it could go to there or there, but it can't. So I think my knight can now run away. Only possible, but oh, that's interesting. But even so, I'm up in material. If he wants to take my bishop, I'll take his bishop. Or I'll just take the knight back. Take the knight back. Then I might castle long, put my rook on d1. Line it up with the king. My knight can come back here. If we trade knights, I restore my pawns. So I'm looking like I'm going to go into an ending with an extra rook, which ought to be comfortable. This guy's from Sweden. Don't know any Swedish words in chess. Okay, I'm going to put my knight back here now, just get it to a safe square. It's also an outpost, because there's no pawns that can harass it. It's defended by 2 pawns. Harry really shouldn't trade now. Okay, this is not too bad. Yeah, I can't really let him capture, because I can't take back, so... I've also got that, but I'm thinking castle there, because it puts the rook straight in line with the king. So now, for example, if I trade knights, the king's going to move away, so... See, because this pawn could be available. Let's go here, attack the bish. Now this pawn can actually be captured, because its only defender is itself pinned, yeah? And that's a really useful tactic to know. Knight's defending this, 2 knights are defending that. Okay. I can go here with check and a fork. You see, this is one of those things, you know, after this, my first thought was retreat, you know, to here. But then I realised that I did have this move, okay? So we've now traded knights. And I fixed my pawn structure. Because I did actually have an isolated pawn here. Yeah, and doubled pawns on the c-file. So this is all good for me. But he had to get out of check, right? I think it would have been probably better for him to move here, let me capture and then recapture. Because this is... Oh, but that just drops a piece, Harry. That's not good. I suppose you can get the knight. But now, we've just swapped everything off. 6 pawns against 4, and I have the extra rook. So, we should all be good. That's now overwhelmed. If it moves forwards, I've got pawn takes. Okay. So after this, I'm going to go refereeing. Zombie referee. That'll be interesting, won't it? After I'm in sleep. And my wife decided to have a dream last night and got up and started moving furniture around in the room because she was dreaming. Go figure. Always just put my rook there. We've got 2 open files on the board, right? So my rooks have got 1. My king just needs to guard the other one. So it's my king's guarding these 2 squares. So this rook now can't get into my position. This pawn's hanging. Okay, so now I can just use my spare rook. Very comfortable. He can go here. No, I might be able to do that. Okay, that comes with check now. Okie coke. Let's throw in another check for good measure. Alright. I think now just doubling up the rooks and then just get these guys up the board, eh? As long as my king's safe, first 2 rules. If I could push these 2 pawns, takes away those from there. I might even can push it 2. It's defended by that rook, why not? Get a rook behind it. Let's push that one to them. That's defending that. Nothing's defending that one right now, but h5 will be forthcoming. Okay. All's well. I could even afford to put a rook there and keep the king out of the game. Alright, let's just push more pawns. Pawn's now undefended. Note to self. Good to keep talking to yourself. The more I talk, to myself when I play chess, the better I play. Just state everything you see. See what you see. See what you see. Okay, so defended, defended. We now have a nice unit of everything all beautifully defended. Right, if this pawn moves now, I've got a rook fork and force a trade. So I'm going to stop that pawn from moving first of all. King can't go there also. King can't go there. If this pawn advances, I'm trading rooks. I'm going to leave myself with 3 completely passed pawns and dance my way to the victory line. Okay, let's keep the pressure up. We'll do a very quick analysis at the end of this, for Harry's benefit, so he knows. Okay, now I can lift a rook. It's checkmate. Yeah, of course it is. There he goes, walked into that one. Okay, quick human analysis. We don't need the machine for this. Okay, this line, the Andersen defense. Yeah. Good game, mate. Good game. Well done. So the Wayward Queen attack comes. That's a decent defense. Now the bishop. Okay. So G6, not particularly strong move. I don't know. I kind of think. Oops. Kind of think maybe bringing the queen out here is better. Better to defend with piece development than to defend with a pawn push. Right? But anyway, so there we go. Queen back to f3, renewing the threat, and now the queen comes out. Right? Now, neither of us really wants to trade queens because it invites the other player to develop a knight for free. And now, this is interesting. Now we've got this really almost symmetrical position, although Harry's played that extra pawn push. Okay, because I've played 2 queen moves and he's only played 1, right? So to there. But now I put my knight in. And now I've got 2 attackers on his queen. So I'm not sure he's got time to do that. Because if he were to play that now, I could take the queen with check. And he's got to respond. And then queen takes knight. So I've won a knight. But then he comes in here with check. And it's kind of similar situation anyway. So now we trade. And the fact that my knight's come out takes this square away from his knight, which is good. Now, this I think is a turning point because he missed the fork. Now, he's got ways to get out of this. He could have brought his bishop back there. He could have moved his king to d8, right? And this is what you've got to say to yourself when you're playing chess. I mean, no one likes to move their king and lose castling rights, but you have to evaluate what's worse, right? Losing my rook or losing castling rights. Losing castling rights is worth maybe a pawn, right? It's maybe 1 point. Losing a whole rook or even just losing the exchange is worth 2. Okay? But he missed the threat, and in comes the knight, and he's a rook down. Now, this is Operation Save the Pony, yeah? So now I move this pawn, and the reason is because I want to eliminate this bishop. As if I can eliminate the bishop, I might be able to rescue the knight. Well, certainly now I can, right? So now, out comes the bishop, and we trade, and then suddenly there's a gap in the fence and the horsey can escape. Run, horsey, run! There we go. Now even if we've got knight takes bishop, I've got knight takes as well. Knight takes, I actually recapture with the pawn. I should have recaptured with the knight there and left my pawns much stronger, but I completely missed it. Capture with the pawn, which is a bit dumb. And now outpost for the knight, very happy. And we trade off. Now I have this isolated pawn, right? So this is a weakness for me. So what you should do when this is for Harry, right? Don't capture that knight, because then suddenly I've restored my pawn structure. And when you've got pawns on adjacent files, those pawns can then arrange themselves into diagonals and defend each other. Pushes a pawn. Knight comes in. Okay. Yeah, and this is a tactic. This isn't a tactic that I expect an 800 to notice, but get into the habit, okay? Right, as soon as white castles, right, what you need to say to yourself is, okay, this pawn could potentially be pinned if this knight moves. Right, that's the kind of language that you need to be saying to yourself, even if it's just in your head, right? So pawn pushes, knight moves. Now, what does that mean? It means this pawn is pinned. What is this pawn doing? It's defending that pawn. Is that pawn under attack? Yeah, right? So now bishop comes out here, looking at this pawn, which is actually defended by the knight, so I'm not concerned about that. So that means I have time to proceed and capture the pawn. Okay, and now back to here, trade, and I've restored my pawn structure. So it should be a formality from this point. And this is completely unnecessary. In an ending, right, when you've got pawns spread out, particularly pawns spread out on both sides of the board, okay, a bishop really comes into its own, okay? You're much better. So here, what he's doing is he's trading a bishop for a knight and a pawn, okay? I think the bishop is better. So I wouldn't have done this trade, I don't think, but rather retreat. Because the thing is that the bishop can cover from that square to that square, right, in 2 moves. Right, the bishop can zip from one side of the board to the other, and the knight can't do that. So in an ending, I mean, he's in a very difficult position at this point anyway, right, because he's a rook down. But even so, when you're down in material, don't go trading pieces, right? I think much better to save this bishop, get it out the way, defend this, keep defending that pawn, leave that pawn stuck. Yeah. In fact, from here, yeah, like I said, I think, like I said in the game, come back. Don't allow white to repair his pawns. However, I guess arguably it also blocks off this rook to some extent. So, but hey. And now from here, it's an impossibility, really. You know, white would really have to screw up in a major way to lose from this position. And it's very hard to get back ranked, right? Yes, if my king had been stuck in the corner behind pawns, he might have snuck in a sneaky sucker punch, but not in this situation now. It's just a bit hopeless. And then the final checkmate, you've just got to be very careful with these pawn moves like that. You know, only gives the king 1 square, and then boom, there we go, and the job's done. So there you go, a quick lesson there for Harry. Thanks for the game, Harry. If you're around the 800, sub 1000 level, hope you've picked up 1 or 2 things from that as well. Thanks for watching. See you later.